It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
So it's officially the period of the year that has now become known as Twixtmas, which is between Christmas and New Year. Anybody, the last few days, you've lost track of what day of the week it is? You're like, is it a Thursday? Is it a Friday? I don't know. So good thing we have Sundays, and you're here today, everyone, in case you missed it. Today is Sunday, all right, so you can reset. And we just wanted to kind of come together as a church and welcome those of you who are here for the first time as well. Great to have you here. Spend a little bit of time, so we had a shorter worship time just now. Fine, I'm going to preach a bit less than normal, possibly, and I guess we'll see. And then just hang out. And here's the thing. The calories you consume between Christmas and New Year's Eve don't get carried over into 2025, okay? So go crazy. That's a medically proven fact. It's not, you know. Hey, now, anybody heard of a company called Spotify? Anybody heard of Spotify? Well, Spotify, for the last few years, have been doing at the end of each year a thing they call Spotify Wrapped. And you, if you're a Spotify user, we as a church are content creators. You get sent a summary of some of your listening habits and the top songs you've listened to, the top podcasts you listen to, so on and so forth. And it's kind of become a thing. Other companies have jumped on it now. So we thought, you know what? Let's jump on it as well. So today we want to do a little bit of an Elevate Wrapped 2024. And the reality is, in case you missed it, there are 52 Sundays every year. Even in a leap year, 52 Sundays. And so we preach a message every single Sunday. We do most of them in the context of series. Sorry, normally when I say series, Siri gets triggered on my iPad and I get frustrated. Shut up, Siri! So here's 9 of the series that we taught in 2024. And then, because I couldn't fit 10 on the page, this was the 10th. And so we finished the year out just in November teaching this series, Beyond Blessed. And what I want to do today is just kind of do a bit of a flyover of a few of the series before I get to them and tell you what they are. Here's a few highlights of this, and this is what would appear on Elevate Wrapped. We've taught 10 series. We've also taught 10 one-off messages. Some of them have been taught by some of our external teaching team members from Melbourne, from Gateway Church in Melbourne, which have been fantastic. Our online experience, we've had 402 people join us, so that's on every single week. And then our podcast through this year, we've had 6,700 listens from 40 countries. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so there you go. There's that. And what I want to do, I just want to take 3 slices of 3 series, and they're kind of the series that I guess as I'm listening and having conversations with people, and we're talking in our Elevate group, for example, just some of 3 of the series that I mean, look, let's face it, they're all brilliant, so there's that. But just some that just seem to have just that little bit of maybe more traction. People have been able to apply a bit more easily. And I just want to hit them. Now, if you haven't been here all year, or if you're joining us new today, I will do my best to make it not feel like you're kind of looking in on what something you're like, looking at the goldfish bowl from the perspective of an outsider. We'll see. I'll do my best. No promises. The first one was this series here we called God in His Own Words. Now, with each of these, I'm going to just hit 3. I'm going to put a flow code up for each of the 3, and this is going to take you to the key Bible piece, Bible verse, Bible slice. So I want you to be engaged today, okay? I know some of you are like, engaged in Twixmas? You're kidding me, right? Look, Come on now. You can do it. I believe in you. So scan this. It's going to take, and what it's going to take you is to Exodus chapter 34. Now, this is the second book in the whole Bible. So it's right early in the piece. And we call this series God in His Own Words. Now, you've undoubtedly noticed that there are a lot of scams coming up all the time. Probably some of you have received text messages from your bank warning you about scams from people who are trying to scam you out of money from your bank account. And the list goes on. One of the famous ones at the moment that's been going around for the last few years is puppy scams, where people are creating websites saying, here's these puppies for adoption. If you want to adopt one, send us this money and we'll send you the puppy. We fell victim to that scam. We thought we were getting a beautiful little Dachshund, as the Germans call it, little sausage dog. And we were ready 6 p.m. Thursday for the puppy to arrive. And it got to 8 p.m. and we realized, I think we just got scammed. And so $1,700 and a temporary break later. Wait. Hey, I'm doing the preacher here. Listen, I married an Italian. It should have come with a warning label. No off switch. Lost $1,700 and temporarily had broken hearts. Having said that, 2 years later, the Victorian Fraud Squad have caught said puppy scammers, and the process is currently in the judicial system for them to retrieve some, potentially even all, of that money. So there you go. In 2023, Australians lost $2.74 billion to scams. It's a bit more than someone stealing your lunch money, if you know what I'm saying. Now, scams aren't new. You and I, we've been receiving emails from some Nigerian prince for years, and they finally found his apartment. They found $43 million in cash in his apartment. Incredible. And some guy, so poor guy, probably spent the last decade trying to share it, but no one ever replied to his email. Anyone get the email from that guy? Yeah, and you thought it was a scam. Ha, 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 ha. Was it your uncle, Amika? And Amika's like, I thought we just called him Prince as his nickname. He was really a prince. Probably not. But here's this idea with scams, one of the big ideas behind scams isn't actually to steal your money, it's to steal your identity. And if they can steal your identity, then there's a whole lot of list of things on the table, including your money. And that's why, this is becoming a big, the pushback, the anti-theft things like CAPTCHA. And you got, the little grid thing, click the fire hydrants, and you get annoyed. But don't get annoyed. They're helping you stay protected. Click crosswalks. And then you click them, and it says, idiot, wrong, and then it gives you a new one. And you're like, I'll click the right words. And there's the ones that I'm not a robot. And I have a friend who actually I think is a robot, and he looks at that and goes, I don't know what to do right now. But I actually would put it to us, and when we taught this series, I made the assertion that I think the person who's been the victim of the greatest amount of identity theft over history is actually God Himself. That over thousands of years, at best, people have wrongly assumed that they know what He's like, and in many cases were wrong. And worst case scenario, there's people who have tried to peddle what God's really like, knowing what they were actually advocating was wrong and corrupt. And so we decided in this series that we'd go straight to the source, hence the title, God in His Own Words. And we pick up this story where God actually, the nation of Israel had been held in Egypt for around 400 years as slaves. And God finally, for whatever reason, said, now's the time that I'm going to get my people out of Egypt, my people, my Israelites out of Egypt, and I'm going to head them and lead them towards the land that I've got promised for them. So he actually tapped a guy named Moses. Moses kind of had some of the inside running, but it was a big job. Over 1 million people. First he has to convince Pharaoh, sorry Pharaoh, you got to find someone else to build the pyramids. God says it's our time to get out of here. And Moses knew that this was a big job. Not just getting them out, but also leading them through the desert to this land that God had promised them. And so Moses did what I would think is a pro move, is he asked God to reveal to him more of what he's like. Like, can you tell me more about who you are? Because Moses had this idea that if we can know and have greater clarity on what God's like, then we will have more clarity on what it is God wants us to do, and even some insight into how God wants us to do it. So Moses asked God, can you reveal more of what you're like? Describe to me a bit more of who you are, which today doesn't sound like a big deal. But back then, that was kind of forbidden. Like God had never revealed what he was like. In fact, the people were instructed to not even try to call God by a name. They would ask him, who are you, God? What's your name? He replied, he gave them a word that was actually unpronounceable. YHWH. No vowels. Sounds like a Polish name. No vowels. YHWH. We translate that now as Yahweh because we've added some vowels in. It's all of a sudden pronounceable. No, back then, God was considered so holy that you dare not try to put him into words. You dare not try to describe him. So Moses saying to him, hey God, can you just describe to me who you are? Reveal more of yourself to me? Would have been like you're expecting Moses about to, be zapped by lightning, and that's the end of him. Next man up. For whatever reason, God actually granted Moses his request. God peeked out from behind his holy curtain and described himself, revealed himself in his own words. And this is how he described himself. He says, I'm the Lord, the God of compassion and mercy. I'm slow to anger, and that's breaking news for some people. Like, really? And filled with unfailing love and faithfulness. Now, when we taught this series went for 5 weeks. We covered each of these 5 underlined traits that God described himself as being. And we started with the one that God started with, this word compassion. And this word compassion in the original language actually is the same word to describe like a mother's womb. And it points to the idea that God is fiercely protective of the object of his love, which in this case is you and me. Fiercely protective of the so we say, I'm the God of compassion. It's not just this wimpy, it's this, I am fiercely protective of the object of my love in the same way that a mother is fiercely protective of the object of her love, her kiddos. So it's no surprise when we read in Isaiah, God speaking through Isaiah, says rhetorically, can a woman forget her nursing child that she would have no compassion on the son of her womb? And then he kind of makes an absurd statement. Well, even if the mother forgets, which is mostly unlikely, even if, like, this is how much more I have compassion, I'll never forget you. Now, I'm not a mum, and so I don't claim to speak with authority on this subject. For those of you that are mums, we played a little bit of a game. Like, this is correct me if I'm wrong. And here's my understanding. If you're a mum of a 4-month-old child, my understanding is that at 2 a.m., when Junior's hungry, Junior isn't lying in his or her cot thinking to themselves, yeah, you know what? I'm really, really hungry right now. Like I could do with a feed. But it's 2 a.m. Mum's had a hard day. She's been looking after me all through the day. She's pretty tired right now. I might just let her sleep. I mean, I've heard of this thing called intermittent fasting. Maybe I'll give that a try and I won't start screaming until 8 a.m. Mum would really appreciate that. And you're in your bed and the alarm goes off at 8 a.m. and you're thinking to yourself, what a considerate 4-month-old child. Again, I could be wrong, but that's not my understanding of how this goes. My understanding of how this goes is the first squeak that you hear from Junior's room, you or husband, get up, your turn, are in there and you're ready to feed them. Like that's just how it goes. And here's the thing, you have every right to walk into Junior's room at 2 a.m. and say to Junior, I'm exhausted and it's all your fault. You did this to me. The only thing I've done today is feed you, change your poopy nappy, try to get you to sleep, and then it started all over again. So here's the thing, I know you're hungry, but suck it up. No soup for you, princess. It's not going to happen. I'll see you at 8 a.m. Again, I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of that. That's not how this goes. Which in all of this is a reminder that God, when he says he's the God of compassion and he has compassion on us, he doesn't give us what we deserve. He gives us better than what we deserve. He gives something that we don't deserve, that we didn't earn, that the ledger doesn't add up. But because he's the God of compassion, he comes in fiercely protective of the object of his love, which is you and me. And then we talked about the other 4 characteristics. And incidentally, when I was thinking of doing like an Elevate Wrapped, I want to just say, like, all of these messages and series are available on our podcast, and it's free. So I'm not up here pushing you and promising you an extra set of steak knives. What I'm saying is this stuff's available, and you can actually give yourself something of a Bible college education for free just by consistently listening to podcasts. And interestingly, you might have even, and as we talk about a couple more, you might even have been here through the year and you remember, and it's like, actually, I think I need to go back and listen to that. Like I wasn't going through the thing that I'm going through now back then, but I'm going through it now, and man, I need to kind of get some fresh perspective, or just know that these are resources that we have available to us for free. And as I like to say, you can turn your smartphone into a Mark phone. All right, here's the thing. Here's the number 1. Number 2, this series that we called Who Do You Think You Are? In our Elevate group, this one is the one that kind of really, really blew up mid-year, and a lot of our people were like, this is kind of almost rescuing them, getting some of this perspective. So you can scan this flow code. It's going to take you to Ephesians chapter 2. Now, Ephesians is a letter that one of the early church heavyweights wrote to a church in a place called Ephesus, which was a port city in what is now modern-day Turkey. Don't call it Turkey. And he wrote it to them, and it was just this incredibly encouraging letter. Like, some of Paul's letters weren't encouraging. They were like, wake up, stop that. But this was like just encouragement and encouragement and encouragement. And we asked the question, or kind of just teed off from the idea that some of us, and some of you growing up, have either been told or you started thinking things like, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not talented enough. And the thing about these kind of wrong thoughts is they can too easily become our internal dialogue. And they turn from things that other people have said to us, and they can easily become things that we start believing about ourselves and start telling ourselves. Like they become our truth. And so God, through Paul, offers a direct counterpunch to this idea that you may have been told or thought you're not good enough, talented enough, smart enough. He comes right out and says it this way: for we are God's masterpiece. He's created us anew in Christ Jesus. And in the beginning of this series, when we taught this in week 1, we said the quiet part out loud. Okay, Paul, if this is true, if what you've written is true, that I'm God's masterpiece, then why is it that some days I don't feel like God's masterpiece? Why am I still struggling with some of the same things I was struggling with before I became a Jesus follower? Isn't it meant to be fixed, gone, removed? Well, I took you to Bible college and made the point that there's a difference between salvation, and I'll cover that just quickly, and then a churchy word called sanctification. Salvation is an event. Salvation is kind of that moment in time where you said, Jesus, I believe you are who you said you are. I believe you're the Son of God. I believe you died for my sins. I put my faith in you. I ask you to forgive me of my sins, and I commit to make you Lord of my life. That's what we call salvation. That was an event. But everything doesn't get fixed in that moment. I mean, be nice if it did, but it doesn't. And you know this, and that's the point. When you think, masterpiece, let me give you the list I had before I made the decision to follow Jesus. And a lot of those same things on the naughty list, they're still on my list. What's that all about? Well, what it's about is this thing called sanctification, which is a process. And these are not the same things. Salvation is this event. From now, Jesus is my Lord. I'm his child. I'm forgiven. I'm adopted. All the good things over there. Now, he's going to continue to lead me on a journey, on a process of working on the stuff. You are, in fact, a WIP, work in progress. And we all are. And so our job is to keep allowing him to do the things. Keep allowing him to shape us from the inside out. So I put this up here, and I put a very strategically placed emoji there, even without our Elevate kids being in here, because some of you are adults. Your minds would have gone to places they should never go to. So here's the thing. Well, this is David. This is in Florence, in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. Very famous statue, maybe one of the most famous, maybe the most famous, I don't know, but it's pretty famous. What I revealed to us, living, 500 years later, not in Italy, is this incredible masterpiece was actually carved out of an imperfect piece of marble. This piece of marble was brought by the wealthy aristocrats who commissioned the statue. This piece of marble was brought in, and it was giant. I mean, the nickname for this statue is Il Gigante in Italian, the giant. Giant, you can see like normal-sized humans at the bottom there. This is a massively tall piece of marble, but that wasn't the problem. The problem with this piece of marble wasn't that it was because it was tall, it's because it was incredibly narrow, incredibly thin. And so the wealthy family who wanted to commission this statue, they approached the first artist, and the first artist looked at the piece of marble and said, "No, I'm out. It's not even possible." They commissioned the second artist, famous artist of the time, who also said, "Can't be done, I'm out." So they then went and found a relatively unknown 26-year-old artist named Michelangelo and said, "Do you want the job?" And I don't know why he said yes. Maybe it's because he was young, dumb, and still living with mum. I don't know. But he said yes. Two more famous, more accomplished artists said no. He said yes. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to geek you out. This isn't an art lesson. But the reason, literally, the reason why Michelangelo has the sling up like this and has his face turned to the left is that was the width of the marble. There wasn't enough marble for him to be facing outward. There wasn't enough marble for him to be doing anything else with his extremities. This was an incredibly compact from side on. It's like it's bonkers. But here's the thing. Michelangelo, who was the third choice for the artist, did what nobody else thought was even possible. And this is what he said about it. I created a vision of David in my mind and simply carved away everything that was not David. And so when God says to you and to me, you are God's masterpiece, he can see the finished product. He can see the masterpiece that's already in us, but we have to go through the process of allowing God to craft and shape and mold and bring out the real person, the masterpiece that God already sees. The thing about the statue of David, when Michelangelo saw the statue, saw the block of marble, David was already in there. Already in there. When you accepted Jesus as your Lord, the masterpiece is already in there. Now it's the process that God wants to take you on and take us on, called sanctification. So here's the thing. The answer to the question, who do you think you are? The correct answer, and even the best answer, is you are who God says you are. Not who that person in your past, not that inner negative dialogue that's become your narrative. You and I are who God says we are. And then here's the third one. This is a series we call God Can Make a Way. And this flow code is going to take you to Judges chapter 6, again, one of the earlier books of the Bible. And we kind of ask the question, have you ever faced something that you kind of just looked at, and you looked at it from every angle, and you walked away, and then you came back to it and looked at it again, and you just were like, there's no way. In fact, you didn't even think to yourself, I can't see a way. You even took it one step further. There's obviously no way. And we wanted to challenge that notion. And so we looked very quickly at 3 slices of the life of 3 of people who became great Bible heroes. We teach our kids about them in Elevate Kids. But they didn't all start as great heroes. And they had to face seemingly impossible situations, just like you and I do, and allow God to show off. And we looked at Gideon, and I'll just quickly fly over that one today. We looked at Joshua, who was facing a literal wall with 1 million plus people, hoping there was a way kind of through, in, up, around, under the wall. And then David, a way through hard times when he was being pursued by an enemy. This one, Gideon, who, now if you talk about, there's songs about Gideon's mighty army, there's Gideon, good. But when we actually meet Gideon in the pages of history, he was hiding out. He was an Israelite. The Israelites had been under persecution for 7 years by a group of people from a place called Midian, so we call them the Midianites. And anytime the Israelites grew a crop, the Midianites came in and either stole the crop or burnt the crop or destroyed the crop, whatever. So 7 years of oppression and hardship caused by this group of people, the Midianites. Gideon, who was a member of the army and actually an army officer, his best play when we find him was hiding out. 7 years, I'm like, look, and he was in this wine press underground, like the nuclear bunker. please don't find me here. And an angel found him and appeared to him and said, mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Which every time I read this, I think to myself, Gideon's like sitting there like, and he hears, mighty hero. And he's like, I thought I was alone. They're obviously not talking to me. I wonder who else is in this wine press hiding out as well. And he looks and there's no one else. And then there's this angel. This angel says to him, mighty hero, the Lord is with you. So right out of the gate, when we pick up this slice of history that God showed off to and through Gideon, we learn that God sees us as we can become. He doesn't shrink wrap us and freeze frame us in our worst moment. We do that to other people. You ever judge someone that you barely even know? And then years later, you find out they're actually a nice person because you got to know them. And you thought to yourself, sorry about that. I think I judged you wrong. I tell people, reserve your judgment. You can say my first impression of them is that you're a moron, but I could be wrong. Well, here's the thing. God doesn't do that. Here's this coward hiding out, and God speaks destiny, future, vision, promise, purpose, because God sees us not as we are. He sees us as who we can be and who he wants to lead us to become. So God charges Gideon, the coward, with the responsibility of leading the nation against the Midianites to destroy them once and for all. Get them out. 7 years is enough. Go back to where you came from, and we're going to live here happily ever after. Now, Gideon assembled an army, 32,000, which is like, okay, oddly specific number. Is that a lot? I don't know. Well, here's the deal. Gideon assembled 32,000. The Midianites' army was 120,000. So I did the math. It's kind of a 1-to-4 ratio. My money's on the Midianites, especially with Gideon leading the Israelites. And then the Lord said to Gideon, 32,000, good effort, but you actually have too many warriors with you. If I let you fight all the Midianites, the Israelites will boast to me that they saved themselves by their own strength. Oh, I'm so clever. We're so strong. So therefore tell the people, whoever's afraid or timid may leave this mountain and go home. Well, 22,000 of them went home, leaving only 10,000. So now the ratio has gone from 1-to-4 to 1-to-12. This looks like the nation of Israel and Gideon and his army looks like they're going backwards. Like if you put some money on Israel before, pull it off and really go all in on the Midianites here, because now it's 1-to-12. But this very act recognizes two things. First of all, God recognizes that if we don't learn to depend on God, we risk taking the credit for ourselves. And God doesn't like to give the glory away. He deserves all the glory. The second thing that God recognizes is that fear is contagious. So who you spend time with matters. Who's in your inner circle matters. Who you allow to invest into you and speak into your life, it matters. Fear is contagious. Incidentally, so is courage. So God recognized, I'd rather have 10,000 people with courage than 32,000 people where 22,000 of them are fearful and potentially will infect and pollute the whole things. People who are recovering from addiction know this. That one of the most guaranteed ways for recidivistic behavior, once you've come maybe through a period of rehabilitation, if you go back to the same people that were your enablers and your mates and in that circle, that heightens the chances of recidivistic behavior. If you don't want to go back there, you need to start to change your friendship group or not. Okay, so down to 10,000. I'll fast forward and we're going to finish real soon. God then said to Gideon, yeah, you know what? 10,000, still too many. Here's the magic number, 300. 120,000, 300. I'll allow 300. I'll sign off on 300. I'll permit 300. So 9,700 of the remaining 10,000 went home. And there's 300, and God says, good. Yep, perfect. And if you know how the story ends, you might be thinking, yeah, 300. Gideon's army, 300. But I'm not sure that's what Gideon was thinking at that moment. I made the point, I think Gideon could have potentially been having a God, really? moment. You ever had a God, really? moment? Really? I mean, like you're looking at your finances and you want to make some moves and get better at managing them and you take some next steps with your giving. You start kind of managing things and maybe even start talking about investing, all the good things, and then your hours get cut at work. And you're like, God, really? Smooth sailing in your marriage, smooth sailing with your relationships, your friends, your kids, smooth sailing. And then the storms hit. The seas get turbulent, and the people that you normally turn to for support are overseas. And you're like, Zoom is just not going to do it for me right now. God, really? You couldn't wait till they got back? Really? So here's Gideon potentially in this God really moment, but here's what God promised to him, to Gideon, that with these 300 men, I will rescue you, and I will give you victory over the Midianites. So here's what I want to do. It's 3 days until 2025. And I would bet that here there's a range of experiences in 2024. Some of you have had the best year ever. Wow, 2024, I can't believe, oh my God, what a great year. And you can list all of the great things that happened. And then some of you, 2024 was the worst year of your life. And then everyone else is somewhere in between. What I can't promise anybody is that 2024 will be perfect and trouble-free. All tailwinds, no headwind. All downhills, no uphills, and all the rubbish metaphors that I could peddle. But I want to encourage us, no matter what we're leaving behind in 2024 or what we're actually carrying into 2025, maybe reluctantly. What if 2025 was a year where every single one of us, like Gideon, committed to learn to become more dependent on God regardless of the circumstances? Like how much would that change the game, especially the internal game? We don't always have control over the external game, but what difference would that make? So how about we just stand like I did? I mean, you guys get to sit when I'm preaching. That's why people are like, what do you sit when you preach? Well, you'll sit when I preach. Why do I have to be the one doing all the work? Just kidding. Please stand. And let me just pray that over us as we step into a brand new year. And by the way, I'm all for praying for God, make 2024 great and do great things and new things and fresh things and better things. Don't lower your expectations and throw them away. It's like, make sure through anything and everything that comes at us in 2025, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that all of it, in all of it, we're committing to growing in our dependence on God. So if you're ready to pray that, or let me pray that over you, let's do that. God, we just thank you that that the one thing that didn't change in 2024 was you, your faithfulness, your character, your goodness. And so, Lord, we're standing, committing to be people who become even more dependent on you in 2025. We don't know what the future holds. We can't control everything that the future holds. For some of us, there's going to be new and exciting opportunities. For some of us, it's kind of inevitable that we'll face some headwinds and some turbulence. But in all of it, that our focus isn't on our circumstances, that we learn to focus on you even more. And this idea that you are the God of compassion, the God of mercy, the God who's slow to anger, the God who's faithful and filled with unfailing love, that we would commit even more to lean into you, to trust in you, and to know that you are large and in charge in 2025 in every aspect of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.